So, if we treat these accounts as an eyewitness's memory of a crime, how would we explain these inaccuracies? A psychologist called Daniel Greenberg from Duke University suggested two explanations. The first he called wrong time slice error. Experimental evidence about memory for everyday occurrences suggests that when asked to retrieve memories about particular everyday events, people often respond with a description of an event from a completely different time. TV footage is particularly likely to lead to interference of this kind because of the strength and dominance of visual imagery. Visual images can bring about memory errors, in Greenwald's words, precisely because they are easy to generate, easy to modify, and easy to remember. Now, as we know, President Bush couldn't possibly have seen the television footage of the first plane crash prior to going into the classroom. However, like the rest of us, he no doubt had repeated exposure to the footage in the days and weeks following the event. So it appears likely that he remembered the footage but misjudged when he saw it, a textbook example of a wrong time slice error. But a Bush skeptic could still argue that he, of all people, should not have been susceptible to an error of this kind, given the personal significance of the news. Surely a New Yorker, for example, couldn't make the same mistake. To answer that question, let's have a quick look at a study by psychologist Kathy Pezdek. 7 weeks after 9/11, she got undergraduates in Hawaii, California, and New York to answer some yes or no questions, including, on September 11th, did you see the videotape on television of the first plane striking the first tower? Now, remembering that this footage wasn't actually shown until the 12th, let's have a look at the proportions of participants who, like Bush, incorrectly claimed to have seen the footage on September the 11th. First, Hawaii, which is about as far from New York as you can get while still being in the United States. Over there, 84% of them gave the wrong answer. Next was California, which is a little bit closer, but still on the opposite side of the continent from New York. Over there, things were a little better. Only 61% gave the wrong answer. But what about the New Yorkers themselves? Surely only a few of them would have got it wrong. In fact, 76% of New Yorkers made the very same mistake that Bush made. In addition to this, across the entire sample, those who incorrectly answered yes were more confident in their answers than those who answered no. That is, those who were more confident were more likely to be wrong. This is a particularly important point, as we'll find out later in this course, as confidence is the main cue that people use to judge the accuracy of an eyewitness, on the assumption that more confident people are more accurate. The other explanation for Bush's error, suggested by Greenwald, is about narrative construction. This is the idea that when constructing a narrative account of an event, people sometimes reconstruct gaps in the course based on a script, i.e. a general idea of what usually happens in a situation. Bush did see video footage of the aftermath of the first crash playing in the school building before he left. Greenberg argues, after seeing the footage of the crash, he may well have incorporated it into the video he saw in the school, completing the story by adding cause to effect. In the few seconds or so it took him to formulate an answer to that question, this story may have seemed reasonable enough. There was footage, after all. People do tend to learn these things from TV, and he was watching TV that morning. Greenberg also noted the tentativeness of memories 1 and 3. Both times he starts by discussing the second attack, only to interrupt himself and talk about the first. When he does talk about the first crash, he backtracks, making statements like, the TV was obviously on. Such hesitations and revisions create the impression that the president is reasoning out, perhaps reconstructing it as he goes. So, Bush seems to be off the hook. There's no need to look to conspiracy theories or deliberate lying to understand his mistakes. He's making eyewitness memory errors, but exactly the same sort of errors that most other people made. This is despite the particularly shocking nature of the crime, the sort of crime that we would expect to be unforgettable. And while the errors did not directly affect the crime investigation in this case, it's not hard to imagine how such errors, where most people are reporting seeing something a whole day before they actually saw it, might have serious consequences if that information was pivotal to solving a crime. So, this example illustrates a number of misconceptions that people have about eyewitness memory and how it operates. First, eyewitness memory is a lot less accurate than people expect it to be. Second, retrieving memories of an event is not like passively playing back a video of the event. Memory retrieval is a creative, constructive process which makes it much more vulnerable to errors such as selecting the wrong time slice and narrative reconstruction, as well as other issues that we'll visit later. Third, people's confidence in the accuracy of their memories is unreliable. In fact, in Kathy Pezdek's data, the more confident people were, the less likely they were to be correct. That is, people lack insight into the accuracy of their own memories. This is critical to understanding eyewitness memory because, as we'll see, an eyewitness's confidence is the key factor that people use to judge the eyewitness's accuracy, and this turns out to be a surprisingly unreliable cue. In the interest of political balance, here's a similar example about Hillary Clinton, as told by one of the most influential eyewitness memory researchers there is, Elizabeth Loftus, here interviewed by Matt Thompson.
There's certainly a lot of famous politicians who have had distorted memories, and one of my favorite ones is Hillary Clinton, who was running for the presidency of the United States when she talked about a trip that she had taken to Bosnia, and she had a very vivid recollection of landing under sniper fire on this trip. That there was supposed to be a greeting ceremony, but instead they just had to run to the base. And later, photographs were revealed of this landing in Bosnia, and it was extremely peaceful. It was lots of children there. Hillary's daughter was there, and so what's going on here? She had a distorted memory, one that resulted in a little bit of embarrassment for her because people called her Pinocchio, but she made a mistake. Yep. I mean, she had a false memory. And her case shows us that all that intelligence, all that experience, all that education, all that Yale Law School degree doesn't protect you from having false memories.
Next, we'll look at how memory works, how false memories can be created, and what we can try and do to deal with the problems of eyewitness memory.